Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boiler Ball post-game in the lounge. I'm Sam Sprunger, joined by Dustin Schutte, Grant Flora. Gentlemen, 88-60, Purdue hammers Auburn. Now, I said I wasn't necessarily expecting and a little bit shocked, not completely, but a little bit surprised by this. But, Dustin, you had a different take on it.
I did. I thought if Purdue really got their shooters going in this game, I thought they had the potential to blow Auburn out simply because Auburn this has happened to them a couple different times. They got blown out by Arizona. They got blown out by Michigan. So they've had a couple of these games where it just got away from them. And so I thought if Purdue is shooting the way we think we know they're capable of, I think what's most impressive, though, is if you would have told me, Sam, before the game that Fletcher Lawyer was going to go 2 of 10 and 0 of 7. I thought that this game, I still think Purdue has a good shot to win, but I think I would have thought this was more of a somewhere in the 8 to 15 point range. So, and that just tells you how deep this team is. CJ Cox hit some big shots early. Jakari Harris came off the bench, knocked down a couple. Jack Benner was outstanding. This was a game where I thought Purdue's role players, even as good as Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn were, their role players really made the difference today.
Grant, we were talking a little bit that Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer went 1 of 10 from threes, but Purdue was still 12 of 26. That's huge.
Yeah.
The other guys are picking it up.
Yeah, 11 of 16 outside of those two. And you think about how good Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer are. They've combined for 10 on their own in some games from beyond the arc. And to only go for 1 but still have 11 or 12 threes for the team total, like that was huge. Jakari and CJ Cox playing well at the same time. I feel like it's usually one or the other, but they both came in and were just shooting the lights out. So and a mentor too. Like this is, I think, what you see like when Purdue's full strength is on display. They become this national championship contender because they've got all these guys. And even when, Fletcher Lawyer is off, like if everybody's chipping in, there's just no way to focus on any one guy. And I think Auburn kind of ran into that.
They did exactly what I have been preaching over and over, hit your free throws. They won by 28, so it wasn't really vital, but they went 10 of 10. Guys, that's the first time that I can remember that they've shot double digits in free throws and made every single one of them.
Yeah, and there were some times there where Braden Smith stepped to the free throw line, and it's like, and he did. He knocked him down. And so that's why I said when we were talking about that, it was a talking point, but it wasn't really a time to panic.
Correct, right.
So I think in these bigger games, I think he shot the free throws a little bit better. I go back to Alabama when he hit some clutch ones down the stretch. I'd have to go back and look. So, yeah, I don't want to say that everything's cured, but yeah, in this type of game where you think you're going to have or you expect to have probably, like I said, I thought this was going to be a blowout going into the game. The team's not thinking that way. They're playing the number 21 ranked team. This is a team that did beat St. John's earlier this season. They're really athletic. They can get to the rim. They can rebound the basketball. This team, Purdue, was not thinking we're going to blow them out. So in a game like this, you have to knock down your free throws. And in a situation where you only get 10, you have to make the most of those opportunities. So I thought Purdue just shot well from the floor in every facet. They were 56% from the floor. What were they from three? 46% from three and 100% from the free throw line.
It's really good.
Yeah, and also the two free throw shooters, Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith, took all the free throws. Nobody else took one outside of those two. So that helps a lot because I think you could say pretty easily that they're the two best free throw shooters on the team. So, yeah, that definitely helps if you're going to go 100%.
So, gentlemen, I always do the did TKR and Oscar Clough almost out-rebound the entire team in opposition. That wasn't even close tonight. Auburn did a decent job. They 25-13. They beat those two 25-13. The stat that I've got tonight, Braden Smith had 14 assists. Auburn had 13.
That's insane. And the crazy thing, and I'll probably state this 30 times on this show. throughout the course of the year. Like, it never even feels like, I looked down at the score sheet and it was like he had 5 assists. I think it was by the second media time. I don't think it was the first, but he had 5 assists in like the snap of a finger. Like, he's so good that you don't even notice his assists anymore.
Right.
It's insane to me. And this team had 21 assists on 33 made baskets. I think at one point they had 26 makes on 20 assists. I think I looked down and saw that at one point. Like, Braden Smith is obviously the culprit there, but then that is contagious. Like, you see TKR is a really good passer. You see CJ Cox is a willing – everybody on their team is a willing passer. And so it helps when the basketball is going through the hoop. I think we've seen, particularly the Iowa State game, when shots aren't falling, maybe sometimes this team wants to – I don't want to say go one-on-one, but maybe they're not quite as trustworthy as they have been in the past. But today, perfect example. This was a team that passed the ball extremely well. Braden Smith manipulated the defense from start to finish. Really outstanding performance from him. Like, these are the type of games where you watch and you say, yeah, that kid's going to break the all-time NCAA assist record.
Yeah, you look at his line, Grant. He had 11 points, 14 assists. He had 5 rebounds. He only had 3 turnovers. His turnover to assist ratio was 14-3. That blows my mind. Plus, he had 3 steals and 1 block.
Yeah, it's obviously really impressive. I feel like, he talked about in the post-game press conference just about how, like, it's his job not just to pass the ball, but like to understand who's shooting well and to make the passes to the right guys depending on even how the game is going. I feel like that's the unique understanding that makes him so good. He's not just, following the playbook to a T just in whatever's supposed to happen. He's figuring out where the flows are and who's being guarded by whom and what the best opportunities are at that time in a way that no other point guard really does, I don't think. And you saw it tonight because he passed the ball consistently to Cox and Harris, who were hitting from 3 really, really well. And Fletcher, he still passed it to him, obviously, and Fletcher got some good looks, but, like, he wasn't the one hitting. And so when you can go to those other guys, like Benter even, it creates more opportunities for the team. And it's something that isn't necessarily going to show up specifically on a stat sheet. Like, the 14 assists doesn't describe those types of abilities and decisions that he makes, but the type of things that make him a player of the year candidate.
Well, and you know what? If Fletcher hits 3 of those threes that he tried, I'm pretty positive most of them came from Braden. That puts Braden close to 20 assists for this game.
Yeah, and I feel like he could have had 20 assists. Easily could have had 20 assists. There was a lob where Daniel Jacobson was wide open. He just overshot him. There's 15. Like you said, if Fletcher knocks down a couple. I think there was one that maybe CJ missed. I think it was Braden assist, but I don't remember. CJ missed in the first half. Then they got the offensive rebound, and he knocked it down from the other side of the floor. We've talked a lot about Braden, but one thing I want to mention, because I will forget it. I got, that short-term memory loss going on. The efficiency, and this is not to pick on Braden or Fletcher. Those two were 1 of 10 from 3-point. You take away their numbers, Purdue was 11 of 16 from 3-point between their other guys. That's outstanding. Like, that's, if you can get that type of production from CJ, Jakari, Jack, you're going to win a lot of basketball games. And they're not going to do it every night, but knowing that you don't have a good night from one of the best shooters in the country, those guys being able to step up was just phenomenal.
Did you hear the PA announcer call him Jeff? Jeff Benter?
I did not hear that. I have heard people call him Jake Benter before, but not that. Jeff's a new one.
Well, that's what threw me, is he's like Jeff Benter into the game. I don't even know. Is that his brother?
Yeah, there were a couple of times that the PA announcer said a couple of things that I was like, wait a second, that doesn't quite sound right. But he was creative too, though. Like, he would say things like, when they were shooting 2 free throws, if it was Fletch, he's like, Fletch is shooting his number from the line. Yeah. I'm like, that's a new one.
Or since they have the bonus, the 1-and-1, they go, he's shooting 1. If he makes it, and the bonus.
I remember hearing that too.
But Jack Benter, Dustin, we've talked about this multiple times, and then with Grant, we've also talked about it. Even asked Coach Painter about it, about the fact that almost every game there's at least 1 to 2 plays, and tonight it was a couple of offensive fouls that he drew, they don't go in the box score, but they make huge differences in the game. Jack Benner had probably his best game as a Boilermaker tonight.
His best. I would say his best coming off the bench.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
I was going to say in those
in
first
his current role.
Yeah, and because those first 2 games he played really well, starting for Trey. And I thought Painter gave a good response to your question. And basically, like, Jack's not doing anything wrong. Like, if Trey was not here, he would be playing more. It's just the simple fact that we have to bring Trey back into the ballgame because he gives us an even better chance to win. And you know what's crazy? Kind of like in the same way that when you watch Braden Smith and he racks up the assists and you're like, wow, all of a sudden he's got 10 assists. Now he's got 14, whatever it might be. It's almost the opposite with Jack, and I don't mean this as a negative. I look at the stat sheet, and I'm like, I bet Jack's got 5 rebounds, and he has like 2. But he's always around the ball, and it seems like he's always making plays. And today, I think he probably leads the country in taking charges that are not called actual charges. Like, he's in position most of the time, and he does not get the call. I think there was 1 or 2 of those. He did get the call at least once tonight. I know one they called a blocking. I think they actually called a reach on CJ. But he put himself in a really good spot. And look, to me, Jack Benner comes in, he's around the ball, he makes those hustle plays. He's a really good defensive player. He gets between the offensive player, the ball handler, and the basket a lot on some of those fast breaks. I don't know if he had a specific instance of that tonight, but to me, that's his role. That's what he does extremely well. Any points you get from Jack is an added bonus. And tonight they got 11. And if he could, he can do that, he is going to see more minutes. And that it helped tonight because Trey, I think within the first 3 minutes of the second half, picked up his 3rd foul. So for Jack to come in, play extended minutes, and to play well on both ends of the floor, I thought that was a really big boost, especially against, again, this is a long, athletic Auburn team, and it's the type of team that maybe could give Jack some problems, but he had no trouble keeping defenders in front of him tonight. At least I didn't think so.
I think it was early in the second half where he wore Murphy like a jacket because he would jump. They both went up for the rebound, and Murphy ended up being on his back, and they didn't call a foul. I don't know what in the world they were even thinking. It was during that stretch right after, like you said, they called CJ for the forearm check or whatever, which he didn't even make contact with him, but whatever. It didn't look like there was much contact anyways. But still, he's doing so much, and I'm happy with what he's been doing because and Matt Painter's right. You want him to play more, but you just can't find minutes for him.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of the same things that Dustin did. I would have said a lot of those. I even tweeted out, like, just positionally how Jack Bencher was there. I think sometimes Purdue has some guys that might rely more on their length and their ability to kind of make plays without actually being in the right position. But basketball 101 says, like, you got to move your feet and get in front of the basketball. And I think Jack Bencher does that really well. And
he sure does.
It's how you get to draw charges and things like that. And so to have somebody off the bench that can do those types of things and just kind of be kind of a glue guy type player, he reminds me a lot of Mason Gillis in that way. I don't think he's quite as developed as Gillis was in the last couple of years of his career, but I think he does some similar things, even his ability to stretch it and shoot the ball. So it's a huge piece to have on a championship contending team for sure.
Well, the Boilers out rebound Auburn 36-25, and guys, this was something that they really struggled with last year. And yes, Oscar Clough being in a position that we didn't have a cure for last year. We didn't have a center, and TKR being in that spot. But you've got Braden Smith still getting 5. And I guess my question to either of you or both, whatever, is can they sustain this for the full season?
I'll let Grant take that first.
You're saying, can they sustain the rebounding prowess, right? Can they sustain that all year?
Yeah, can they sustain being such a powerful rebounding, like out rebounding their opposition so well? Like Auburn's a very athletic and good team, and they out rebounded them by 11.
Yeah. I mean, I think it does somewhat depend on who you're going up against. Like when they play Michigan,
Sure.
They have a great front court and whatnot. But like from a general standpoint, I think they definitely can. Trey Kaufman-Renn has emerged as a completely different rebounder than he ever has been, and one of the best in the country. And Oscar Clough, obviously, we know what he's capable of. Those two together, are probably the best rebounding duo in the country. And then you still have 7'4" Jacobson off the bench. You have Braden Smith, who's probably the best rebounding point guard in the country. You put all the pieces together, and I think Purdue definitely is the best rebounding team in the country, just from what they have on their roster. I don't know what the numbers would say about that, but I think they have as good a chance to rebound anyone they go up against. So I think it's definitely something that can happen.
I guess my question, Dustin, is from what they were last year to what they are this year, have they cured the rebounding ills that they had last year?
I would say the general answer is yes, because this is rebounding isn't going to, I don't think, going to lose this team any games. I think they're going to be even with or have an advantage in probably just about every game. Like Grant said, there may be, maybe the Michigan game poses some problems because of their size and their skill. The one thing I would tell you, though, is you can look at this game, and the reason they out-rebounded Auburn by 11 is the fact that Auburn missed a lot more shots and Purdue did not. Because Auburn had 11 offensive rebounds, and I don't remember what Purdue's number was. 7, maybe. I have the stats in front of me. If only I looked at them.
If you only had them.
Purdue had 9, so they were comparable.
Right.
But I think in a game, I think I would have liked to see Auburn's number a little bit lower, because the fact of the matter, and now they shot some threes and obviously created some long rebounds, and Painter alluded to that. You got to be in the right place at the right time, and they only got 5 second chance points. Well, if there's some other teams in the Big Ten that get 11 rebounds, they might get 12 to 15 second chance points.
Yeah.
And think about the difference. Now, it doesn't make a huge difference in this game. You're still probably going to win by 20 points at that point, but against some of those other teams, it could make a difference. So I think there's still some avenues to clean up, still some places to get better. The one thing I would say is I'm concerned a little bit if there's a situation where Clough and Kaufman-Renn or one of the two get in foul trouble, because I think Jacobson still has a long way to go to be a really good rebounder for his size. I think he still has to put on some muscle. I think he still has to embrace the physicality. Not to say he won't get to that point by the end of the season, but right now I think he's really raw, and I think he's still kind of depending on his length and being taller than a lot of people to get the rebounds, as opposed to going and chasing after the basketball. Not all the time. There are times when he's got a fire lit underneath of him, but I thought tonight there were times when it seemed like he was just reaching up to grab the rebound because he was the tallest guy on the court. And I think you've got to be a little bit more physical. If he can get that figured out, then yes, Purdue would dominate teams on the glass from start to finish all season long.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's move to another. Jakari Harris finally starting to get some shots to fall. He actually tonight. I have the stats right here too. I was getting ready to ask what they were, and then realized that I could probably tell you guys too. He 4-6 from threes. Now he only hit threes tonight, but he had one, and I even leaned over and told Grant during the game, Dustin, that I don't think it was a steal, but he took it to the hoop, and just the athletic move to the hoop. He didn't get it to fall, but I think he might be starting to turn the corner to where he's not as. His shots seem like they're going to go down maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, I think they're going to, and they did today, and they did. Right. There was another game, and now I'm blanking on what game it was off the top of my head. I think it was a game at home. Maybe Minnesota. I don't remember, but I know he had another game where he played really well. I want to say it was Minnesota, but I could be wrong on that. No, Eastern Illinois. It was Eastern Illinois. Now that I think back, and he had some big shots in that game. I still think there are 2 players on this team that seem really comfortable. If you want to throw Braden in there, then 3 really comfortable who can take opponents off the bounce. One is Braden. I think Fletcher is actually an underrated guy in that regard, where he can pump fake, dribble.
He did it a couple of times tonight.
Yes, he can do that. That's an underrated feature of his game. And I think the third one is Jakari. And I think if he can get consistency, because he can get to the rim, he just doesn't. He has had trouble finishing. If he can finish those, and he can do that 3 or 4 times a game, again, that adds another element to Purdue's offense. And there will be times when he doesn't get 3 or 4 opportunities. He's just got to work within Purdue's offense. But if that becomes a real asset for him, like that's going to open up his 3 game, because they're going to have to, defend the drive and the shot. He's just a really skilled all-around player. And maybe it won't be this year, maybe it'll be next year, but at some point it's going to all come together, and he's going to be an all Big Ten caliber player. So it's really good. He's a kid that I talked to in the offseason, and he was talking about, I know I'm a 40% three-point shooter. I want to be the best defender on this team. Just has really big goals. And so for him to finally get some shots to go down these past couple weeks, I think it's been really big for his confidence.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that too is I think if you drive more and you kind of add that element to your offense, it's a more consistent offense. Like for him, his shots have been up and down all season, and we know he's capable of being great, and he's probably going to. But if you can drive more and add that element to your game, it's going to be more consistent. Another consistent thing to bring off the bench when maybe, it's hard to be consistent with inconsistent minutes, as Matt Painter says. So I would really like to see that, because it makes him more consistent. It adds that element to Purdue's offense, like you were saying. And so it just, I think, is one of those things that can take Purdue to the next level.
Well, I think the fact that he's not getting a ton of looks is maybe because they weren't falling. And now if they start falling, he may start getting more looks as he gets in there. But at the same point, he doesn't get a lot of minutes either. And it's because of the log jam at that position that he plays. Him, CJ, Fletch, Omer. Like they all are kind of that same conglomerate of position. And it's not that he's getting cheated out of minutes. He's getting plenty of minutes that they can give him. But I think if he starts getting shots to fall, he's going to get more looks, and he may in turn get a few more of those minutes. Because let's be as honest as we can. Omer's not shooting very well right now. And he hasn't all year. But if Jakari starts getting the shots to fall, he may get some of those minutes.
I think that's a fair assumption. I think that's fair. I think they still like Omer's ability to pass and his ability to handle the ball.
And you should.
Right. And I think they like what they bring. And I think Omer's comfortable. I hate to say that because nobody's maybe really comfortable playing limited minutes, but I think that's where the Euro League comes in, because there were times he would play 5 or 6 minutes, right? In a specific game. So it's not unfamiliar territory for him. And he's another guy that I think at some point the shots are going to start falling. It's just a matter of time. And when you have so many players on this team, I go back to what Grant said, what Matt Painter says, the hard to be consistent with inconsistent minutes. And you just have so many good players that you ride the hot hand. And today it was CJ and Jakari. And, I thought Omer did some good things when he was in there. I still think he's a good defender. There are times when he gets a little lackadaisical maybe in his defense, but for the most part, I would agree with that. If Jakari can become even a more consistent shooter, his defense is there.
Right.
He can see more minutes. And tonight he 12 points in 16 minutes. Like he was very efficient when he was on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Great.
No, yeah, I would just echo a lot of that. Like Omer, I think he just dealt with so much transition, and he's done a really good job, and his ability to facilitate and play point guard is super valuable, because last year, when Braden wasn't on the court, it was CJ Cox, and CJ did a good job when that was the burden that he had. But like to have a more legitimate point guard to back him up is huge. But I agree, like if Jakari and CJ are going to be able to shoot better and ultimately play better, then yeah, they should get a lot of those minutes, especially with their ability to defend. Like I think they're both really solidly better defenders than Omer is at this point. So not that Omer hasn't done a decent job defensively. I think he's made strides there, but he's just not quite where Jakari and CJ are at. So yeah.
And let me say that, I'm not at all bad mouthing Omer. I really like his game. I really like what he's got to offer. And we all know the less minutes you get, the easier it is for your shot to start falling. So, I mean, it's so easy. But you've got to take into consideration, you've got to get the hot hand. You can't just go, well, you're eventually going to start getting out of it. Well, we need those points now, or we need production now. So that's the hard to be consistent with inconsistent minutes. Yes, I get that, but at the same time, if you've got a hot hand, you've got to go to it. You'd be silly not to. So it's a double-edged sword because you want him to be able to shoot his way out of it, but at the same time, you can't really afford to do it all the time. So hopefully we get more games like we had tonight where he could be in the game maybe a little bit longer and try to shoot his way out of it. You know what I mean?
There will be more games like this.
Yeah, sure. I get that.
I can promise you that there will be.
Well, it 88 to 60. The third consecutive game. Oh, we've got a question here. Is should Lawyer be replaced in the starting lineup? He seems to be off. I don't disagree that he seems to be off in some of his shooting, but honestly, the past few games, Purdue hasn't been on as a team consistently anyways. It just seems like maybe he's the one that has it's carried over to. But what are you guys' thoughts?
Well, okay.
Silence.
Grant, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I think you've seen this from Fletcher every season that he's played at Purdue. Like, he's just gone through some dry spells, but he always comes out of them. And you have seen some of his big performances even this season, like on opening night with his, was it 30, 27, something like that, where he just shot the lights out. And so I don't think you replace him. He's got the experience and he's going to come out of this dry spell. I think he just kind of takes some time, and he still does a lot of good things in the court that you don't necessarily realize in the box score. So I don't think that you should. I don't think Matt Painter will, but it is interesting sometimes when you have CJ Cox and Jakari Harris that are playing so well. Sometimes there might be like moments throughout a game where maybe they play the 2 and the 3 and Fletcher takes some more time off the court. I don't know what the numbers look like tonight if that happens, but that's kind of how I think that plays out.
Do you replace him, Dustin?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think one thing that really sometimes gets overlooked, in addition, I talked about his ability to drive to the basket. I think the other thing that if you inserted somebody else into the starting lineup, and let's say it's Jakari or Omer, they don't have nearly the same consistency shooting the basketball as Fletcher does. And I know he struggled recently and he had an off night tonight, but defenses still have to account for him. Think back to the first half of that Memphis game in the Baha Mar when he was 0 for 4, 1 for 5, whatever it was, and then he got really hot and scored 18 points, something like that. I don't remember what the final number was in that.
Yeah, I think it was 18. Yeah,
but he went off in that game, and you still have to account because you'd never know. Like, he is a very streaky shooter. It's kind of like Carson Edwards. He can't get his own shot and do the pull-up as well as Carson and just take over a game in that same way. But in terms of if he sees one go down, he could hit the next 5. And so you just never know. So I think he's played and he's proven himself enough throughout his career that he should be trusted. Look, there's going to be games when Braden doesn't play well. There's going to be games when Oscar or Daniel don't play well. Trey doesn't play well. You're just going to have, and this is where the depth comes in. This is where you want to have a Jakari who can get you 12 points, a CJ who can get you 14, Jack who can get you 11. Mm-hmm. But I still think that when you have Fletcher on the floor, whether he's 7 for 7 or 0 for 7, defenses still have to account for him because they know he's a known commodity and he's a known 3-point threat. And I think that maybe if you put Omer or Jakari into that starting rotation, defenses can maybe cheat a little bit and sag off of those guys. Now, that's not to say they can't make them pay, but I think Fletcher still, that's what he brings even in games when he's not shooting the basketball well. The other thing I would say too about Fletcher that people probably don't notice as much is he is the vocal leader of the team. And he has and Matt Painter talks about his really high IQ. This is a team last year that really struggled with their communication. Fletch was the one that kind of kept them together, and he's doing the same thing this year. I don't know if that comes through on TV or not, and that's really important, especially on the defensive end. So that's another reason why we talk about things that don't show up in the stat book all the time. We mentioned it with Jack Benner earlier. I think that that's one thing that doesn't show up in the stat book that Fletcher is really good at and what he brings to this team from a leadership and communication standpoint. And that's another reason why I think he's still going to play, between 25 and 32 minutes every night.
And let me jump on here and just say I agree with all that you said. I don't think you take him out of the lineup, but I also don't think that that's a bad question either, because you have all these others that are producing the way that they are. And you have Fletch who isn't, and he's been kind of inconsistent the last few games. That's not a bad question to ask. I just don't. I agree. There's so many non-box score things that he offers that I don't think you take him out of that starting lineup. Like Grant said, are there times that maybe you take him out and he rests more, he gets less minutes? Maybe. But I think you keep him in that starting lineup because I think he does so much for this team. So definitely a good question, but I think Coach Painter has got the right starting lineup out there as he's got it right now. So, but big game tonight. Purdue wins 88-60 over the 21st ranked Auburn Tigers. Gentlemen, a long day here in Indianapolis. All three of us are here. It's the first time, but yet we're on different screens. It's great. But overall, a real successful Saturday. Dustin, 8 of their last 9 if you take out the 1-3 record from last year.
8 of, if you can't take out their 1-3 record
from last year in Indy.
Oh, yes. Okay.
The race last year, and they're doing great.
I was so confused. I was like, wait, what math are we doing now?
Yeah.
They have had a lot of success here. Yeah, it was like they were. What I tell you they were 7-1, and now they're 8.
You said that.
Yeah,
they're 8 and 4 of their last 12,
yeah.
But last year they were 1-3 in Indy.
Yeah, so Chris Foreman sent that stat out, and it was they were 8-4 in their last 12 games in Indianapolis. And I did the math in my head, and I was like, well, I know they lost the Indy Classic, and I know they lost the Sweet 16. And then I did, and I thought, oh yeah, the Big Ten tournament they lost to Michigan. Mm-hmm. So that's 3 games they lost in Indianapolis. 3 of them came last year, so 8-1. So if you omit that year, they're 8-1 in their last 9 games in Indianapolis. So this really has been like a second home court advantage for them.
Well, it definitely was a good night tonight. The Boilermakers, a 28-point win over a highly ranked opponent, with the 21st ranked Auburn Tigers being the victim tonight. Braden Smith, everybody, more assists than the entire Auburn team. Just saying.
It's wild.
It's a crazy stat.
Bobby Hurley better watch out.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight in Boiler Ball post game in the lounge for Dustin Schutte and Grant Flora, the All-American. Dustin, the All-American.
That's right. And national champion.
And a national champion. Just saying. Better rub off on the Boilermakers there.
There we go.
I'm Sam Sprunger. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And we'll see you a break for the Boilermakers. So it'll be another week and a half before we come back, but we'll see you then.